Hi everyone, how's it going? I just showered and I've just moisturized, so I'm feeling extra dazzly, and I love it when that happens. I love it when you have a fresh shower and then you moisturize yourself, and you feel it on your entire being, and that's what you take when you go to sleep. You take this fresh, wonderful feeling. I absolutely love it. But yeah, I just wanted to come online, shoot the shit. There are so many different things on my mind. The first thing I want to talk about was a post that I made on Facebook. I was just coming off like a post about Disney princesses if they were plus sized, and it was about, it was all these Disney princesses and they were drawn as being bigger than they were, like much bigger. And as always with anything celebrating plus size women, then comes the concern trolling and the hateful comments. And I was responding to one person in particular. The excuses that this person made to be hateful about fat women is just absolutely crazy. So I pointed out that, I think I must have pointed out at some point that, what, I can't even remember what I pointed out, but I can definitely remember what they pointed out. They turned around and said, in a bid to gaslight me about the fact that people should just shut their mouth and just leave people alone, he turned around and said, oh, why are you not more concerned about Disney abusing minors? I'm thinking, first of all, as a survivor of child abuse, you need to be punched it directly in your throat. That's A. B, the thing about child abuse, right, is that it's not just skinny kids that get abused by adults. It's kids of any description. It's kids of any race, shape, age. You get it, right? Like, child abuse doesn't stop at skinny kids, because child abuse is not about attraction. It's about the abuse of power. It's very, I don't even want to go into it. But the truth of the matter is that sexual deviancy of any kind, pedophilia especially, is about the abuse of power. A man abusing a child doesn't care about whether or not that child is fat, thin. They get off on the power. They get off on the ability to abuse somebody who's vulnerable, maybe in some cases in the same way that they were abused when they were vulnerable. That's what this is about. And for you to try to turn this into a, well, children are being abused every day, that's more important than calling somebody fat. Imagine a fat child who has been abused by adults in their lives, and they need, to see a representation of themselves that isn't monsterized, just to give them some respite away from the problems that have been, away from the problems that have been already foisted on them by abusers, by abuse in their life. Imagine a fat child has been abused, and then they look at a plus size person, especially when it's a fat girl, and they look at a plus size person in the media. For that moment, when they see that positive representation of themselves in the media, living life, having fun, it plants a seed in their mind that maybe I can have that. Maybe I can be happy. Maybe I can be, it's not much, but it's a seed that can grow into a very large oak. Just having the positive representation there. So the fact that this person would turn around and say, well, you should care more about child abuse. What do you think it leads to when children are being discriminated against based on arbitrary bullshit, like whether or not they have extra fat on their body or they have minus fat on their body? How do you think that affects children? And especially, how do you think that affects children who are abused? There are some people with eating disorders who have those eating disorders, who are, who slim down in an incredibly unnatural way and in an unhealthy way. There are people who have eating disorders dedicated towards slimming down precisely because corpulence or fatness is also associated with being sexually fast. It's associated with the lack of innocence. That's one of the reasons it's so important to talk about fat phobia, is because that leads to a child having a complex within themselves. If I'm not a joke, then I'm an object to be defiled by people who should know better. So part of, not all anorexics get skinny because they want to look good. Some of them are doing it as a direct result of the abuse that they've suffered. Any extra fat on their body, their minds see it as an invitation to abuse them. So when you're out here being fat phobic as fuck, how do you think that affects children? And not even just fat children, everyone. So you want to make that excuse to be a cunt, basically. You want to make the excuse that child abuse is more important than the conversation around fat phobia. And then when I challenge you on it, you want to make out like I care more about fat phobia than I do about kids. You're a cunt. Simple as that. You're a cunt. And as a survivor of childhood abuse, and I suffered that childhood abuse when I wasn't fat, by the way. You're lucky nobody can see you, because if anybody can see you, they should punch you directly in your fucking throat. Directly in your throat. How dare you? And that's what led me to writing that status on Facebook. And I said on Facebook, I don't want to be worshipped and I don't want to be pandered to, because marginalized people, right? Let's be real. Let's be real just between each other, right? Some of us can have these fantasies where we're loved and appreciated exactly for who we are, and we're worshipped and fawned over like we see, standard people, or I don't know, being worshipped and fawned over. Like, we want some of that, right? But when I really think about it, I never wanted that. I feel like if I wanted that, I would have made my life into something in which I could attract that fawning and that praise and people falling over me. I would have an existence in which I had that all the time if I really wanted that. Now I realize diversity is not about pandering to the left or wokeness. It's not about any of that shit. It's about giving people of all races or some fucking space to breathe. That's all it is. It's about giving Black people space to breathe, and Black people especially, because we're hated the world over for no fucking reason. Giving Black people the space to breathe. Giving darker people within India and Africa and the Caribbean the space to breathe. Giving working class people the space to breathe. Giving women the fucking space to breathe. Because misogyny is the father of all this shit. Literally. Giving women the space to breathe. Giving fucking gay people, gay men and lesbian women and bi people and pan people and trans people the space to breathe. Giving fat people and skinny people the space to breathe. Giving disabled people, physically and mentally, the space to breathe. That's what diversity is about, and that's what it's supposed to be about. It's not supposed to be about pandering to our worst selves and having people worship us at our worst. That's not what it's about. It's about us being given the space to fucking breathe. And the thing about it is, when you give so-called marginalized people the space to breathe, I say so-called because, that's what we're called. We're called marginalized people. When you give marginalized people the space to breathe, you literally give everyone else the space to breathe, because now it's like, well, I don't have to worry that I'm not, on the other side of the equation, I don't have to worry that I'm not, that I'm not good enough for my own race. I don't have to worry that I'm not good enough for my own gender. I don't have to worry about any of that because there is no other to compare me to. I don't have to worry about being good enough because there is no other. There is no like other to compare myself to. There is no fear that I will turn into this person if I don't do what society tells me. And when that fear is taken away, It gives people the room and the space to be who they are. And it gives a greater space for people to be healthy, for people to put their physical and emotional health first rather than putting the whole world first. It makes people happier. That happiness leads to better creativity, better production. It leads to less violence in the world. It has a knock-on effect. When you remove this othering from the equation, it has the knock-on effect of bringing peace. But nobody wants that. When you have peace, you have freedom. People would literally rather have the freedom of thought to speak their mind as their worst selves than they would just to have freedom of being, freedom of movement as their best selves. That's a fucking sad ass reality we live in. People will literally kill and die. And I'm speaking as a targeted individual, because gang stalking is built on that. People would literally rather kill and die just to be able to be cunts to each other, rather than live and be free and have freedom of movement without worrying about being othered. What a sad ass reality we live in. And people on that side claim they care about the kids. You don't give a fuck about them kids. It's disgusting. So that's all I want. I don't want to come on camera and talk about being a big black woman who's diagnosed with an illness that she doesn't even have. I don't want to keep having this conversation, because I just want the space to fucking breathe. And that's all I've ever wanted throughout my whole entire life. I don't need a lot. I don't really ask for much. I just need space to figure myself out so that I can do whatever it is I need to do with greater efficiency and more productivity. Get off my ass and mind your business. But nobody wants to do that for each other. Nobody wants to do that. And this is the thing, right? Let's put it in the hierarchy of ease when it comes to the subject matter. All right, so being a fat person, right? It is literally easier for me to lose weight than it is for planes to accommodate me as a fat person, than to have like a whole systemic shift in a bid to accommodate me. It's easier for me to lose weight than to have all this systemic stuff happening just so that I can feel comfortable, right? That's true. But you know what else is easier? It's literally easier for somebody to shut the fuck up and mind their business than it is for somebody to put down the crisps or to put down the fizzy drink and to exercise and to lose the weight. It is easier to shut your fucking mouth than it is for somebody else to lose weight. Way easier. One lip in front of the other, like, mind your business. If somebody's fat and you don't like it, mind your business. Focus on something that you do like. It's actually easier to do that than for the person you're bullying to lose weight just because you decided to open your mouth and be a cunt. Once again, we live in a world where the easiest things in life to do are the things that we fail at the most. Like the easiest thing in the world would just be to just shut the fuck up about somebody's body and respect one another's emotions. It could be the easiest thing in the world to do, and it could be as simple as just shutting up and observing and listening more than speaking. That's the easiest thing in the world to do, because ironically, it means not doing anything. The easiest thing in the world to do is do nothing. And people can't handle that. They can't handle that. Just have to say something. And then when somebody challenges you on it, you want to throw children and abuse children at that on the altar of your bullshit. Don't do that with me. Don't do that with me. If people have no excuse to be unhealthy, then how much excuse do you think you have to offer unsolicited opinions or make fun of people just because you don't understand what's going on? How much excuse do you think you have? I just want some space to breathe. You don't like fat people, fine, cool. You don't like black, then why focus on us? Why focus on people that you don't like? Again, it's so much easier for you to mind your business than it is for somebody else to go on a weight loss plan. God damn, man. Again, imagine the knock-on effect of people minding their own happiness and doing what makes them happy. That has a knock-on effect on people of all skin types or body types, all that. Like, that has a knock-on effect, but people don't want to do that. And it's the easiest fucking thing in the world to do, more than any weight loss plan. It is so much easier to shut the fuck up, mind your business, and focus on things that you actually do like. But people don't want to do that. It's the narcissism for me. I just want some room to breathe. Nobody wants to be worshipped. No woman wants to be worshipped. No black person wants to be worshipped, especially not black people. We don't ask for much. Fat people don't want to be worshipped either. No, nobody who is under the umbrella of being marginalized wants to be worshipped. All we want is to be left the fuck alone long enough. Like, no, just give people the emotional space. Like, I'm sure the people using slurs and the people trolling, they want emotional space. Oh, hey, Megan. Megan Phobe says, because people are full of unresolved trauma and it makes them total fucking idiots, it sucks. This is the thing about fear, right? People are taught fear all the time. Megan's right on the money, by the way. It's about fear. This is the thing about fear. When you have people who are othered and you are kept fearful of being turned into that other, remember what happens to your brain when you're fearful. Your cognitive abilities are drastically impaired. That's why people can't shut the fuck up. That's why people fat shame. That's why people are racist. That's why people are homophobe. That's why people are like, because the fear has impaired their cognitive abilities. So they can't shut the fuck up and they can't mind their business. Can't shut the fuck up and can't mind their business. And they take it so far that they want to bring children into it, act like you're not doing it for the children. You're doing it for your inner child, maybe, who needs somebody to bully, but you're not doing it for anybody's children. Let's be all the way fucking real. Let's be all the way real. And speaking of gang stalking, I'm going to bring it back to gang stalking because this is important, right? I've said for years that gang stalking reinforces racism, it reinforces sexism, it reinforces fat phobia, queer phobia, you name it, gang stalking reinforces it. Let me prove it to you. From a TI perspective, I get attacked for my weight a lot because that's part of the gang stalking. Part of the gang stalking is attacking you for anything that the status quo deems undesirable, like, being sexually autonomous if you're a woman, being fat, being black, you name it. It's used as something to use against you, right? So, when you're insulted, yeah, Megan, yeah, everyone's programmed, bang on. So, basically, I get insulted for my race, I get insulted for my sexual trauma or my, physical trauma. I get attacked for being sexually autonomous. I get attacked for being queer, even though the queer thing, for some reason, the queer thing really doesn't bother me because I actually like being queer. I don't know why, but I do. I like being black too, but black people are hated all over the world for no fucking reason, and it can get very stressful. Being a woman is complicated. I like being a woman, but it's complicated. So I get attacked for basically anything that doesn't fit in with the white patriarchal status quo. If you're a TI, you're going to get attacked on anything that doesn't fit. If you're a white person, you're going to be attacked for being a woman. You're going to be attacked for your political views. Anything about you that stands out as something that actually forms your identity that you have chosen or that society is deemed unfavorable, the gang stalkers will use that against you as a bid to insult you and wear away your self-esteem. But that's only one part of it. There's a second part of it, and I've brought this up before. For example, my neighbors are Liverpudlian, right? They got Liverpudlian family members. Okay, so my thing is that the only reason that even matters is because their accents are different to mine, and that is an easy identifier. That's the only reason I even bring that up. But if you're dealing with a particular type of gang stalker, like me, for instance, two of my most infamous perps were Somalian. There were also Romanians as well. Anything that you bring up as a difference when it comes to perps, what the gang stalkers will do is they will get other people who are, in this case, they will get other people who are Liverpudlian and, to come in and do street theater. Do you understand what I mean? And they will do this because this is where it gets really, really disgraceful, because they're relying on people being Liverpudlian in order to trigger me, white Liverpudlian in order to trigger me. So if my perps were Somalian, then suddenly there would be an influx of Somalian people in a bid to use their difference to mine in order to trigger me. So I'm supposed to be triggered by Somalians because two of my perps were Somalian. I'm supposed to be triggered by white Liverpudlians simply because these perps were Liverpudlian. So what the gang stalking is doing is it's actually reinforcing ethnocentrism. It's reinforcing prejudice. It's reinforcing classism as well. Because if they're working class, then there's going to be an influx of perps who are working class as well. So all of that is an example of how prejudice is used in gang stalking. So when I say that gang stalking reinforces racism, reinforces classism, reinforces prejudice of any kind, you will know that I'm telling the truth. I had a discussion under one of Catherine Horton's videos. Catherine Horton said that most TIs were black. Of course, here come the influx of white TIs telling me that's not the case. One of them was telling me that, oh, all I know is that I get attacked by black people more. But that's because the gang stalkers are using your bias against you. They use your bias against you, knowing how your brain will respond to it. You see, this is the thing about the gang stalkers or the people in power who are socially engineering this shit. They know us better than we do. If you want to trigger a white TI, you surround them with people of different color skin to you. If they're non-white, so much the better, so that when somebody talks about racism, you get triggered. Or in my case, if I'm dealing with people who are very distinctly of a different culture to me, I'm supposed to get triggered by those different cultures simply because of the way they talk and simply because of the way they look, because the perps talk and look like them. So I'm supposed to be triggered by people's differences. That's not prejudiced. That's not prejudiced. I'm supposed to be triggered by you simply because you have a similar accent to someone who was bothering me. That's not prejudice. Come on now. Come on now. So that's exactly what I'm talking about when I say gang stalking reinforces all this shit. People did not believe me when I was saying that gang stalking was reinforcing some Nazi shit. This is exactly what I'm talking about, and it goes both ways. So on top of me being triggered over arbitrary differences that don't fucking matter, now, on top of that, there is an attempt to trigger me over other people's arbitrary differences, which in the grand scheme of things don't fucking matter. What matters is how people treat me. And yet there's this attempt to trigger me by surrounding me with people who look like my perps or who talk like my perps. So gang stalking reinforces racism, it reinforces sexism, it reinforces queerphobia, it reinforces classism. When I say that, I'm telling you the truth. And for the record, it also reinforces bias against mentally ill people. And again, it's not just on the side of TIs either, by calling us paranoid schizophrenic when we're blatantly not. It's not just that, it's also in using addicts and mentally ill people to target us as well, and using their weaknesses to trigger us, so that when we come into contact with other addicts and other mentally ill people or other homeless people, we become suspicious of them. So gang stalking, as a rule, it reinforces prejudice. Because without prejudice, this shit ain't going to get done. And if you think that gang stalking does not have a white supremacist hierarchy, you're naive. Patriarchal as well. All of the gang stalking has a hierarchy that's built upon discrimination. And of course, white TIs don't want to believe it, or white TIs don't want to acknowledge it, because otherwise, well, you're just playing victim. No, bitch. If you have any idea about how the world really works, you will understand why when Catherine Horton said there were more black TIs than anyone else, she knows what she's talking about. There's still an ongoing genocide against us. It's still ongoing. It's still ongoing. A lot of people think there isn't because nobody's shouting the N-word in public anymore without getting cracked in the face. But no, it's still ongoing. It's still ongoing. There's rDNA technology specifically centered around genocide. That's what I've heard anyway. But yeah, sorry. It's sorry. Sorry. It's just a react video. So yeah, when I say gang stalking is responsible for racism, sexism making a return, please understand I'm not bluffing and I'm not chatting shit when I say that. It's classic Zertsitzung shit. Speaking of which, I was kind of laying down some towels under my door. That's a fire hazard. I'm not supposed to do that. So I was laying down some towels under my door to stop the cold coming in. And then the mum kind of greeted me. She said hi, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I recognized this as, ordinarily I'd just be like, when you don't like someone, but you're sick of the tension, so you just want to say hi just to break the tension. At first, I felt like it was that. At first, I felt like it felt like she was just saying it out of nervousness. But then I started thinking about it, because I thought back to all the other times that I'd been perped by people, and increasingly over the years, as I became wiser to how the gang stalking actually works, I keep as much distance between me and my neighbors as I possibly can. I make sure that as much as possible, we do not have a relationship. Because in order to properly perp you, the neighbors need to have contact with you. So now I'm thinking to myself, All she said was hi. It's not a big deal. But I feel like the neighbors talking to me is supposed to give the gang stalker some form of control again. Because again, it's meant to trigger me because, you know, her greeting me, now I'm reminded, okay, this person's broken into my flat. I think they might have contaminated my drink one time. Like this person has just like probably stolen one of my shower gels as well. So they've stolen from me. So they've been in my place and they've called me all the names under the sun, had their children call me all the names under the sun. The children are still calling me all the names under the sun. And, you know, that like I've been terrorized for the best part of like a year now. It's more than a year. So I'm thinking the only reason why this person would say hi to me is because they were told to, and they were told to because it would trigger me. Only it didn't. Because at first I thought it was just out of nervousness. You know, again, I didn't think it was a big deal. I just thought nervous. It happens. And you want to diffuse the situation. So at first I thought it was just nervousness, but then I thought back to all the things that this person actually did. And I have to include like calling mental health or reporting my page every single time I made fun of them, or you know, or they want to do it out of revenge, or they did it because the daft ass kid is worrying about curses. Like, so like now I had to think about everything that this person did, and it's like, okay, well, clearly they were supposed to talk to me because it was supposed to trigger me all over again. Because that's what gang stalkers do. They talk to you to trigger you or to get some kind of control over the situation. It's happened before. Because the thing is that when I was being gang stalked when I was being gang stalked in the supported housing that I was in, me ignoring the perps, what would happen is that, you know, at first I would start ranting online, and then they would show people online what I've been saying. And at first it makes them look good, because if I'm ranting online like that and I'm clearly manic because of all the trauma that they've put me through, right? And I'm basically laying out all the details of everything that they've done, and I'm telling everybody about it. It makes them look good at first because it paints a picture of me being unstable and me being vindictive, right? But then after a while, when it becomes clear that they're not going to leave me alone, that's when I kind of shut down and I stop paying attention to them. Because when I really hate a person, I don't get angry. I don't get like hype or what have you. Like when I really hate a person, I just won't pay any attention to you. If I really, really hate you and I really can't stand you, I'm not going to yell, I'm not going to scream, I'm just not going to acknowledge you. Because the way that I'm built as a person naturally is that if there is so much negativity in my life that is just reaching peak, I don't want to deal with it. So after a certain time, it's going to come to a point where the perps are going to say slick little stuff here and there. I'm going to hear it, but I'm not going to acknowledge it, because I do not want to invite that negativity into my life. After a while, it gets so bad, you don't want to acknowledge that negativity in your life and you just want to focus on something else. And whilst I'm ignoring the perps, they're losing control over the situation, because now everybody's starting to understand, okay, it's not Fabienne causing this. It's the people around causing this. It's that particular family causing this, or it's that particular person causing this. Now we realize it's not her. It's somebody else that's doing it. This happens every single time I come into contact with a perp and I just stop paying attention to them. They keep doing the same shit in order to try to get the same response. And then it's just like, you know, but because I'm not responding in the same way, now people are starting to wake up to what's really going on. And that's why after a certain amount of time, the perps will try to be friendly and bring me back into the fold. Because if they're friendly and they bring me back into the fold, and after a while I get bored with pretending that they're not cunts, then it makes me look bad all over again, and it gives them the ammunition they need to go back to their flying monkeys and say, oh, well, Fabienne's done this, Fabienne's done that. So if they build a relationship with me, it gives them more ammunition. That's why I mind my fucking business. Unless it's something specific that I want, I mind my fucking business. I don't build a relationship with anybody, because once they build a relationship with you, first of all, as a TI, they're building a relationship with a traumatized person that's already been beaten down by a lifetime of abuse. So that person's already going to be hypervigilant. Already the emotional stability is going to be minimal, right? So when they form relationships with you, they're relying on your trauma and your emotional instability to do their job for them, so that they can turn around and turn everything that you've done into something that they can use. They can't do that if they don't know you. They can't do that if they don't have a direct conversation with you. They can't use your name willy-nilly to try to trigger you if you don't talk to them face to face. They can't do that. And bear in mind, they've been trying to use my name to trigger me, like, Fabia, I don't care. Me and you don't have a relationship. The only way you could get my name is if you are doing two things. One is if you're looking at my letters, and two is if you're looking at my social media. If I don't have that relationship with you and you're calling my name every 5 seconds, then how else would you get that information? Other than looking at my social media or looking at my letters? How would you know what my name was? That's why it's useful for TIs not to build a relationship with your neighbors. Do not build a relationship with them, because if they get personal information on you, they have to explain how the fuck they got it. They have to explain how the fuck they got it. That's why I'm like, no, I don't form a relationship with these people. Because if you're not online, if you're not actively stalking my social media, and you are not fucking, and you're not looking at my letters, how are you getting my name? I don't call my own name every 5 minutes. How are you getting it? How are you getting it? That's why I don't build a relationship with them people. That's why I don't do it. Because when you don't build a relationship with them, you have ammunition. And all of these things ran through my mind. It was a simple word. Hi. Nothing big, no big deal. It could have been that she was nervous. Just nervous. It was a simple thing. But when it's gang stalking, these things are never simple. Every single little thing that they do is used to be weaponized against you. So these are 3 things that gang stalkers do, or that gang stalking does. 1, they outdumb you. 2, they throw money at the issue. And 3, they try to maintain as much contact with you as possible. Those are the 3 things that they do. Oh no, the 4th thing, they weaponize everything. They weaponize everything about you and themselves in order to trigger you. So those are the 4 things that they do. So just outdumb you, outfund you, maintain constant contact, and weaponize everything. And because it's so annoying, and because their activities are so draining, it's easy to it's easy to kind of get caught up in what they're doing, because that's the point. They want they want your attention on what they're doing. They want your attention so focused on the micro of what they're doing that you miss the macro picture of what they're doing. That's the point. To keep you focused on the pettiness so that you miss their tactics. And if you miss their tactics, you can't prepare for their tactics. Yeah. So honestly, I wasn't suspicious at first, because I just thought, just normal shit. Nothing to worry about. But then I started thinking about it. Talking to people, having your perps talk to you is a way of them maintaining control. So I'm not fooled by that. I've got to put this plug back in. Hang on. Put it back. Yep. So I'm not fooled by that. I'm not fooled by that at all. Again, this ain't my first rodeo. You know what I mean? Oh, I got exempt from jury duty as well. For medical reasons. For medical reasons. The irony is that if I was able to serve jury duty, I'd be out of the house, which I know is what these perps wanted. I would have been out of the house for 10 days, 10 working days, I would have been out of the house, but nope. You had to try to use mental health willy-nilly in order to get out of the shit you've been doing. And because of that, now I don't have jury duty. Now, thanks to that erroneous paranoid schizophrenic diagnosis, I ain't got to do it. I ain't got to do it. You know what I mean? This is exactly why I say mind your business. Don't be fucking so like, stop trying to fucking think. It's just not it's not your strong point. Stop trying to fucking think. Just stop it. And speaking of the tooth, I'm still taking my antibiotics. As it turns out, there was a broken piece of tooth in my mouth, like I said before. That was caused by the electronic weaponry. It was fired on me again today when I was trying to shave because I tried to put my leg up on the seat, on the toilet seat. It was closed, so don't worry. I tried to put my leg up on the toilet seat to shave my left leg. And suddenly I felt a pain in my left hip. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty obvious what the fuck they're doing. And the thing is, as always, the intensity of the electronic weaponry is closer to my bedroom because the bathroom is next to my bedroom. It's closer to my bedroom than it is in here. So, you know, the reason I bring this up is because literally tried to call me paranoid schizophrenic, not even tried to call me, but diagnosed me as paranoid schizophrenic with absolutely no proof. I've got proof that my tooth is broken in my mouth, which can be caused by electronic weaponry if you look at the fragments. I've got proof here that bone erosion has been caused on that side of my face through electronic weapons. All anybody has to do is x-ray and they can see I'm telling the truth. I wouldn't be surprised if there were dissolved parts of my brain because of the electronic weaponry. And ironically, wouldn't you need a brain scan to be able to ascertain exactly what type of mental illness someone has? So when it comes to the paranoid schizophrenic diagnosis, people have just about as much evidence that I'm not paranoid schizophrenic as they do that I am paranoid schizophrenic. Absolutely fuck all. They have fuck all proof that I'm paranoid schizophrenic and fuck all proof that I'm not. Because at the end of the day, in order to have schizophrenic symptoms, you have the CR1 part of your brain has to be damaged. You can easily ascertain through a simple brain scan whether or not the CR1 part of my brain has been damaged. That's all you have to do is just look that up. And if it turns out that it hasn't been damaged enough to create paranoid schizophrenic symptoms, well, you've got a bit of a problem, haven't you? You've got a bit of a problem. Because then you'd have to explain all the so-called voices if it's not voice to skull. There's evidence for voice to skull. There's evidence for directed energy weaponry. There's evidence for the injuries that I carry. All of that is circumstantial, but at the very least, it's evidence. There is no evidence for my paranoid schizophrenic diagnosis. And this is the thing that really makes me laugh, right? This is the thing that really makes me laugh. They don't get any proof of my mental illnesses through a CAT scan. They don't get proof of any of my mental illnesses. Even if getting those scans would reinforce their own argument. Even when it would be easier to give me a brain scan to ascertain the damage in my brain to say, well, we have the proof she's mentally ill and therefore her claims can't be taken seriously. Like, the proof is right there. The proof could be right there, but you won't provide the proof. You won't even prove yourself right. Because you know, if you prove yourself right, then you prove me right. So that paranoid schizophrenic diagnosis, which is based on nothing, I have been able to use that to my advantage. Because all the shit you want to cover up. I've got more evidence in my corner than anybody else. But again, the thing with gang stalking, they outfund you and outdumb you. And that's basically all there is to it. That's all there is to it. They outfund you and outdumb you. Yeah. I don't know what else there is to say. I'm getting electronic weapons fired like at the back here. It never stops. It just becomes a bit more muted. That's why I've been so much calmer in the last few weeks. It's not because like it's not still going on. It is still going on. Everything's still going on. It's a quiet period. And the way torture works is that every torture victim has to go through a quiet period before everything kicks off again. They'll lull you into a full sense of security so that they can kick their shit off again. In some cases, it can stop completely for a couple of years, only for a handler to come in. I mean, you know what I mean? You know, I could tell you some stories about some of the TIs that have been handled and shit, but I won't go into that today. Oof. But anyway, I gotta go, you guys. I love you, my fellow TIs. Thank you for staying with me through this rant. It was a rant, let's be real. I covered about how many different subject matters in this video. But thank you for staying by me through my rant. I hope you guys are well. I hope my fellow TIs are well. I hope you're surviving as best you can. I know this life is not easy. My heart is with you. You know this already. So with all that said, I gotta go. I love you guys. Peace and blessings. Bye-bye.